All right, welcome everybody. So we're going to jump into insider threats and deepfake enabled social engineering. So we're going to talk a little bit about what are the trends in terms of insider threats in the last couple of months. So it's a big deal. What's been the story? It's been insane right now. We're talking about potential global costs, the impact of this threat to the tune of over $11 billion. So the cyber attack, the concern for insider risk and social engineering, it's a top concern across the globe for most CISOs worldwide. So let's talk about it. What is insider threat? This is mostly any authorized individual misusing any legitimate access to potentially harm the organization. That's it. A big concept out there today also is deepfake technology. This is when somebody simulates AI media to create a realistic image of a person, a video, and use it to potentially for malicious intent. Social engineering, this is typical. Most of us already are aware of this. This psychological manipulation is kind of used to trick individuals into divulging sensitive critical information or performing certain actions towards malicious act also. So why does this matter? The scams around AI is rising crazy right now. 67% rise. Deepfake presence right now, we're talking about 40%. A lot of organization right now in the news, media space, we see constant barrage of social engineering, deepfake, AI power scam is rising everywhere. So the need for us to be very, very much more observant. What are the attack surface expansion? Of course, digital transformation. Now there are many blind spots in security, monitoring, and controlling systems. Hybrid work models. The fact that we have a lot of remote workforce right now even makes it much more a concern right now. The attack growth in terms of deepfake has increased tremendously in the last few weeks also and months. Um, what are those types of insider threats? There's the malicious insiders. These are employees or contractors who intentionally steal your data and information. Sometimes it's negligent insiders. They are well meaning individuals within your organization, but it's an accidental breach. Then we have compromised insiders. Really, these are legitimate users that have been hijacked by external threat actors through credential theft or system compromise. And that's one of the reasons it's so critical to make sure we are constantly doing security awareness training. What are the motivation for insider threats in general? The typical suspect would be your financial gains, revenge or grievances, or coercion and blackmail. These are some common insider threat motivation out there. What are some key indicators of insider threat activities? Sometimes they will start saying unusual data access, large transfers of files, accessing unrelated systems randomly. Sometimes it's privilege escalation, and you start seeing high access levels, policy violations, increases. Then we have sometimes anomalous behavior whereby remote login at unusual weird times, accessing system from crazy unexpected locations, or working outside normal working pattern. So these are some indicators of potential insider threats within an organization for sure. Insider threat detection challenges, like any one of this kind of threats, it could be a little bit difficult to really track it. The challenges is trusted user privileges. So because legitimate access right allows insiders to evade traditional perimeter-based security. So because of that, that could be a challenge out there. Limited lateral movement monitoring because of insufficient visibility into how users move between systems and access different data within the network. That could be a challenge out there too. The missing behavioral analytics, sometimes lack of contextual understanding of normal user behavior patterns makes anomaly detection very difficult to figure out in some cases also. Analytics and prevention, the current state. Monitoring the gaps around this could be, if you don't have enough capacity to monitor activities within the organization, that could be a threat in its own. There's sometimes critical skills shortage in terms of your staffing resources, contractors helping you to really analyze and understand the risk and the threats to your organization. Some case study out there. This is a big one. Uber in 2024, there was a huge, leak that happened, and an insider role facilitated external threat actor through a compromised credential and social engineering tactic. The result was kind of devastating for Uber because we're talking about 70 million drivers and rider record was exposed in this case, and including their personal information, their trip history, and payment data. So that was a significant breach for this organization out there. Deepfake technology, a primer. This is crazy right now. The AI model foundation, in general, we have a lot of realistic media that could be used to simulate real people, and they would look so real in a way that you could probably not recognize the images out there. There's multimodal synthesis also. These are advanced system generated audio, video, and image content in real time with increasing fidelity and speed. So the speed, there will be fewer latency. So the speed is good, looks realistic, and potentially could compromise us. Democratized access, open source tools everywhere and cloud-based services make sophisticated deepfake creation accessible now to non-experts. So you don't need to have some huge big model and funding now. Everybody can gain access to potentially use this model. How deepfake supercharge social engineering? So you can imagine it's a combination of two crazy going on together. So with social engineering trying to, fake access and use psychology to gain access, married with deepfake makes it even much more weird right now. So we're talking about enhanced believability. It's now much more believable. There is the speed. Now there's automated speed. There is trust exploitation. The traditional skepticism is gone because now you're looking at potential authority figure that has been cloned. The precise customization, you can customize it to people and weaponize it against organizations. So it makes it really, really a big concern right now. Common deepfake exploitation tactic would include voice impersonation. There are so many tools out there right now. You can capture your voice and you can play it for 5 minutes and it would constantly replicate and use your voice going forward. There's fake video meetings out there. So there are so many synthetic video conference being manipulated with making decisions and getting approval. There's phishing announcement with a lot of synthetic media and email campaign and credential theft operation for increased success rate. Now we're talking about most of the communication technique are much more enhanced because now they can spell check, AI can create seasoned communication, and that could be used to exploit an organization in general. So it's a big deal out there. Some examples would be deep fake business email compromise. So, we're talking about attackers trying to convince, and mimic CFOs, CEOs, and other financial authorities to exploit the organization. The urgency creation is also there, to induce urgency, then ultimately financial damages. And we've seen quite a number of cases where that has happened in the past also. So we should be mindful of that too. Real-time deepfake video conferencing attack. So many times it could be a live session, and we've seen cases whereby malicious actors have come in to actually use deepfake to pretend and set up conferences on different platforms to exploit organization and use avatars. And in one historical precedent that happened, $25 million fraudulent transfer at a global engineering firm through a deepfake video conference call. And it also had multiple participants in this case. So you can imagine now it's really, really um, mainstream and you could be potentially exploited crazy. So that's something to think about. Deepfake driven ransom and extortion. Now we're talking about family targeted with their voice of their loved ones and people using it to impersonate potential kidnap, reputational blackmailing, people using it to potentially try to blackmail people, corporation extortion using deepfake to kind of exploit organization for making them do compromising things, and in some cases they have been very successful. So these are some very, very big use cases that we've seen happen. Um, so something to be mindful of. Credential phishing. Many times we could have fake help desk staff support. Credential harvesting is a big one. System compromise is a big one right now too. And these are constantly getting better because they are combining the AI model with deepfake, with your voice, with your video, and fewer latency to make it even much more believable. Um, it also enables supply chain attack. So many cases we've seen supplier impersonation where suppliers are actually impersonated. Then we have seen authentication bypassing, whereby your traditional verification process just fall apart against those sophisticated voice and video synthesis. So makes it much more challenging. So we have to be very mindful in general. Incident analysis, this happened, the Arup $25 million scam, this happened in February 2024. Um, Finance workers joined what appears to be like a routine video conference call, and the deception was all participants except the victims were AI generated deepfake. So they look so real. The result, real time deepfake technology authorized $25 million fraudulent wire transfer. This is real. This happened in real time. So something to be mindful of for sure. Another incident was Ferrari CEO voice deepfake attempt. This is an attempt to contact the executive with a deepfake voice. They discovered it, due to subtle behavior inconsistency and verification protocols. That was what kind of helped them. Then, and prevention success was proper training, multi-factor authentication prevented any significant financial loss in this case. So you can imagine if there was no effective MFA and effective training, this could have been a very different story. Government response, Senate testimony in this case, in 2023, there was a hearing featuring a mother who received convincing AI generated ransom call using her daughter's voice. But this testimony really highlighted how emotional pressure and overload can easily make us make rational or irrational decision because the voice was so realistic, and this lady was convinced this was her daughter because they've used deep fake to analyze the daughter's voice, so it looks so real in this case. So phishing in HR and IT operations. So you can imagine, executive impersonation for your top senior leadership. They could potentially circumvent your multi-factor authentication through social approval process. They could access escalation. They could fraudulently authorize and enable lateral movement and potential data exfiltration from your organization and um, firm at any point in time. So it's a big deal to be careful. Credential theft, this could be easily used right now. Deepfake video prompt, administrator could try to make contact to employees to provide them security update login portal and use that to harvest their credential. And so many fake portal right now that collect your username, password, and even your multi-factor authentication codes. So the lateral movements, in general, stolen credential enables attackers to move freely through your corporate network and server in general. So something to be mindful of also. Misinformation and disinformation is a huge one. There's potential for market manipulation and even political influence in general. So deepfake AI right now, can be used to target markets as a tool to extract and compromised organization countries and even influence political decisions with a lot of fake ads, fake voices all over the world. So it's a big risk. Industry sector impact analysis, financial services are huge, because of high value targets, it's financial. Healthcare, patient data exposure, and the potential political damage it could cause, it's a big deal. Manufacturing, the supply chain procurement scam, using a lot of vendor impersonation. This could also be a huge deal in terms of our supply chain. Convergence, when insiders meet deepfake, it's just a crazy combination because we're talking about insider collusion right now. So malicious insider could facilitate those deepfake attacks, compromise access. Your external attackers leverage stolen insider credentials for deepfake campaign internally, then a hybrid breach. So we're talking about combined insider and external attack using those synthetic media for maximum damage. So it could be pretty bad. Some best practices, natural, the usual suspect, employee awareness and training. We need to keep training our folks. Do deepfake simulation training, red flag recognition in general, and a response protocol to make sure we are efficient and clear in terms of escalation in general. Um, Multi-layered verification, out of brand, verification. So we should have separate communication channel for financial and sensitive approvals. Secondary authorization should be a mandatory callback and multiple approval requirements for high risk transactions. Time delay, have a cool off period for live transfer and sensitive data, so we have enough time to kind of cool off and make sure it's right. Then biometric confirmation, MFA authentication should include voice pattern and behavioral biometrics in general. Those are good practices in general also. Um, some technical controls and AI detection we should use when we could deepfake detection softwares that can detect potential deepfake. Behavioral analytics that sees a pattern of unusual behavior and flag it immediately. Then digital provenances, watermarking and blockchain based authenticity verification for very sensitive communication and media files would be a good practice also. Um, the monitoring side of the program for insider risk should include your user activity monitoring in general. Any behavioral baseline changes should be triggered. Rapid response playbook to, have procedures for insider threats and detection and containment, and a regular access review is also vital. Also, the ecosystem and wide mitigation strategy should include vendor education, keep education and awareness, threat intelligence, have a strong intelligence internally and externally, then have solid authentication standards to adopt those industry-wide authentication and verification procedures in general. The future in general, what we see is an AI arm race whereby this technology would be used to potentially in multiple ways that could lead different state actors, individuals, corporations to really step up in terms of their adaptability to AI in general. Scale deployment in general, real-time voice and video deepfake creation at massive scale, targeting thousands simultaneously. That's a potential, you know, next wave. Regulatory evolution also, government development in authentication standard and deepfake disclosure requirement would definitely increase globally right now with a lot of framework, new laws. This would be inclusive in most of those documentation going forward. Um, and overall, we should have a very resilient culture, have a healthy skepticism. You know, we should have a culture that questions, unusual requests, culture of verification. Leadership should be fully bought in. There should be continuous learning, security awareness for sure. Then there should be transparency and open communication all through the process. And we should stay ahead of the adversary, escalate threat appropriately, balance your defense strategy in general, and have an adaptive security posture to get you ready at all times. So that's all we got for now. Thank you so much, and see you in the next session.